This is Ukraine's best chance of taking its skies back from Russia for good.
Very nice.
The F-16 Viper is trusted among over 24 countries as their premier fighter aircraft. Despite being over 40 years old, the F-16 still remains relevant due to a host of upgrades and weapons packages that make it just as deadly as when it first came out.
The beginning of a program that could result in thousands of airplanes spanning many, many years.
However, will these upgrades be enough for Ukraine as it fights to take back control of its skies from some of Russia's most capable aircraft, like the Su-35 Flanker? Weighing just 42,000 pounds with a full combat load of fuel and ordnance, the F-16 has an extremely powerful engine. The F-16 is a single-engine aircraft with an output of nearly 30,000 foot-pounds of force. This engine enables the aircraft to travel up to 2 times the speed of sound. Additionally, with a max service ceiling of around 50,000 feet and a rate of climb at 50,000 feet per minute, the F-16 can withstand forces up to 9 Gs and still be in the fight. But this isn't the best part of the aircraft. At the time, the F-16 was the first fighter aircraft to incorporate fly-by-wire technology. This new system replaced manual flight controls with electronic signals. When the pilot manipulated controls to perform the desired maneuver, the computers would send signals to the actuators at each flight control surface to physically move the aircraft. Combined with the ergonomic cockpit that is slanted 30 degrees backward, many pilots comment how easy the F-16 is to control and how it feels like putting on a leather glove when hopping in the cockpit. But while the F-16 itself is incredibly maneuverable and its airframe exceedingly tough for being a decades-old platform, its avionics, weapons, and onboard sensors have needed to be upgraded over the years to make sure the F-16 stays relevant on modern battlefields. Beginning in the early 2000s, a consortium of European countries and the United States began a modernization effort called the Midlife Upgrade Program. Known as the MLU, the program first looked at the airframes for each participating country, which included Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and Holland, since many of their F-16s first entered service in the mid-1980s. Once repairs had been made to each airframe that had hairline cracks, the teams then began upgrading the insides of the aircraft. Among the most important upgrades was the Modular Mission Computer. Known as the MMC, this new computer incorporated a host of new innovations that greatly enhanced the current and projected combat capability of the F-16. Incorporating the new standard ADA high-order language ensured that the MLU F-16s not only had a standard software language, but one that was more powerful than the various ones used decades ago. With its more powerful processors and increased capabilities, the MMC eliminated the need for several computers inside the F-16, like the Expanded Fire Control Computer, Heads-Up Display Unit, and Expanded Control Interface Unit. But that was not the only major change to the combat system suite. These F-16s also received a new fire control radar, known as the Westinghouse AN/APG-66 version 2 fire control radar. The radar can track up to 10 targets at a time, including up to 6 AMRAAM engagements at a range of around 160 kilometers. The new radar had a 25% increase in range from the previous models and is considered 40% more reliable, meaning less maintenance and fewer errors in flight. The MLU F-16s also received a new IFF system. IFF stands for Identify Friend or Foe and has been around for decades for air, ground, and sea units to ensure that incoming aircraft are friendly. By squawking certain frequencies, other friendly units can tell if the F-16 is indeed friendly. The MLU package included 4 new IFF antennas with ranges over 100 kilometers. These new antennas allow friendly units to receive IFF signals from ranges greater than their max weapon release ranges, ensuring friendly identification before a weapon leaves the rails. These upgrades are just a handful of upgrades that revolutionized existing F-16 airframes. Other upgrades included new color displays, cockpit layout, centralization of the electronic warfare suite, standard reconnaissance pods, and a new digital terrain system that allows F-16s to hug close to the ground without fear of colliding with ground-based obstructions. But even though the modernized F-16 is clearly a capable weapon system, What will its impact be on the war in Ukraine? In August 2023, the NATO alliance made an announcement that President Zelensky has been hoping for the last 18 months.
Today, we announced that we will donate 19 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine.
In a joint statement, the NATO countries of Denmark and the Netherlands, both countries that upgraded their F-16s under the MLU program, pledged to donate them to Ukraine. In exchange, both countries would be reimbursed with F-35s through the Foreign Military Sale program, courtesy of the United States. As of the making of this video, Denmark has pledged all 19 of its remaining F-16s to Ukraine. The Netherlands has said it will donate at least some of its 42 F-16s to Ukraine, but has yet to show how many or when. Denmark has promised to provide 6 by the end of 2024, with the remainder spread out over the next 2 years. But what will these new aircraft mean for the war? The F-16 service history speaks for itself. Having seen combat in more than a dozen conflicts since its inception, the F-16 has shot down 76 aircraft without a single loss in a dogfight. 5 aircraft have been lost to ground fire and 1 to an aerial accident. But the F-16 may not see as much aerial combat as one might expect in such a massive conflict. Right now, the skies over Ukraine are among the most contested airspaces, arguably since World War II. Both Russia and Ukraine employ vast numbers of air defenses, including surface-to-air missile sites, electronic warfare programs, manned portable launchers, armed drones, and long-range ballistic missiles used to target airfields. As a result of this hotly contested airspace, neither side has managed to actually gain strategic or even operational level air superiority. Though tactical level air superiority changes hands locally depending on the day, neither side can definitely say that they own the skies. In fact, both air forces have dramatically reduced sorties due to fear of being shot down by ground defenses. Russia conducts several dozen sorties a day, down from a high of 180 in 2022, while Ukraine's Air Force performs an average of just 5 sorties a day. With such a limited number of sorties by both sides, there have been very few confirmed air-to-air kills in the war, with most losses resulting from ground-based systems, long-range fires, or accidents. So, does that mean the F-16 can still have a big impact? Though the number of F-16s going to Ukraine won't win the war overnight, they can have a big impact on the war if employed smartly. For example, Ukraine has been trying to expand its bridgehead in Kherson Oblast for several months now. If the Ukrainian military used F-16s to establish local air superiority here to hold off Russian planes, Russian infantry on the ground could be left with little support and get pushed back. An operational level breakthrough could occur that could then have strategic level implications. But if Ukraine were to concentrate its F-16s on one sector of the front, Russia would surely put up its best fighter aircraft to contest them. So what would a dogfight between an F-16 and an Su-35 flanker, Russia's best operational fighter, look like? The Su-35 flanker is the most advanced Russian fighter aircraft in Ukraine. First introduced in 2014, Russia possesses only around 150 of these aircraft in service, minus the 5 confirmed operational losses in Ukraine due to ground fire. The aircraft, though not perfect, is a very capable platform. The Russians, though not quite able to produce a 5th-generation fighter like the F-35, wanted to build a sort of 4th-generation plus aircraft with the flanker. Compared to the F-16, the flanker is quite heavier. Weighing in at 76,000 pounds with a full load of fuel and ordnance, the flanker is twice as heavy as the F-16. Because it is so much heavier, it requires 2 engines versus the single engine in the F-16 to give it enough speed and power to survive in aerial combat. With a speed of around 2.5 Mach, the flanker can be slightly faster than the F-16. However, it has to use its afterburners to achieve this. This is where the F-16 has its first advantage. Because the engine inside the F-16 is better, it doesn't need its afterburner to achieve supersonic speeds. Since the flanker is built like an aerial tank, it needs its afterburners to match the F-16 speeds in a dogfight. Due to this, the fuel capacity is much larger in the flanker at about 4,400 gallons, which is about 4 times as much as the F-16. However, because the American engine is much more fuel efficient, the F-16 has a max operational range of around 2,280 nautical miles. In comparison, the flanker has one just slightly longer at 2,400 nautical miles. Because the F-16 has a better engine than the flanker and a much more favorable power-to-weight ratio, it is much more maneuverable. Combining this with the fact that the F-16 is a much smaller aircraft, around 20 feet smaller in length and wingspan, the F-16 presents a much smaller radar cross-section than the flanker. Though neither aircraft is a stealth aircraft, the fact that the F-16 presents a very small target will make it more difficult for the Russian pilots to hit it. One way the flanker tries to make up for this is with the thrust vector capability of its engines. Because the flanker pilot can change where the thrust goes on his engines, the flanker can achieve much tighter turns than it otherwise could. It also helps the flanker get a slightly better angle of attack. However, these two benefits are negated when comparing combat suites and weapons. In the current configuration, the Su-35 has a claimed max range of 300 kilometers and can track up to 30 targets. However, this fact does not tell the whole truth. The flanker can only achieve this if the beam width of its radar is very narrow. This means it can miss things closer when the pilot sectors the radar like this. Realistically, if a flanker pilot wants a good scan rate for situational awareness, the effective range goes down to 200 kilometers. By comparison, the Viper has a range of around 160 kilometers in its current configuration. However, there are talks to incorporate new active electronically scanned array radars into the F-16s going to Ukraine. AESA radars are a necessity since these radars have a greater range, more fidelity, and the ability to track more targets than passive radars. American F-16s already have these radars, and there are talks of adding them to F-16s going to Ukraine. The flanker is the only fourth-generation fighter not to have the AESA technology, instead relying on a passive array. The flanker can be outgunned when combined with its shorter-range weapons like the R-27 missile, since Russia has not made any long-range weapons like the R-77. This is because the newest F-16s can sport the most advanced air-to-air missiles like the AIM-9X Sidewinder and the AIM-120D AMRAAM. So who could win in a dogfight between the two? A fight between an F-16 and an Su-35 would be very close in their current configurations. It depends largely on individual pilot skill and weapon load, though the F-16 with the MLU package has a slight advantage. However, if the F-16s earmarked for Ukraine received an AESA radar, not even the flanker stands a chance in a one-on-one fight. However, with how dense the air defenses are on both sides, we would likely never see a direct F-16 versus Su-35 fight unless much larger numbers get donated to Ukraine. Bye for now.